What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and it has been a minute since I made a video. There hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. It's been kind of quiet, but today I have a slew of things for you. A couple things that are not specifically Dolphins related, one that is related to the NFL as a whole, and then one related to the Patriots that I think you guys will enjoy, will get a kick out of. So and then everything else is kind of Dolphins related. So I have a bunch of stuff for you today. So we're going to get kind of caught up after, you know, a little bit of slow time. So we got a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to start with the stuff that is not specifically Dolphins related. So first of all, the NFL, there was a report out that the NFL is going to be changing their rules in regard to who they allow, attend the NFL Combine. And so specifically, the rules that they're changing are in regard to violent offenders. So that would be like any player who may have had a serious, like a domestic violence issue or something like that, right? And they wouldn't allow those players to go to the combine. You know, they would have to do like their pro days and could only do pro days if they wanted to show off, you know, their times and their abilities and their reps and so on and so forth. Right? So, but the NFL is deciding that they should be lax, you know, that rule and be less stringent. So I find it funny because, again, man, like, this is just another example of the NFL proving that they don't really care about a lot of the things that they say they care about. Like, they talk about, caring a lot about domestic violence and so on and so forth, and not, there being, no tolerance for it and so on and so forth. But in their actions, they prove otherwise. Like, they don't stop teams from picking up players after they've been released, like, let's say Kareem Hunt, who, oh man, golly, I'm probably gonna get this wrong. I think it's the Browns who picked him up. I want to say it's the Browns. I'm pretty sure it's the Browns who picked up Kareem Hunt. Remember? So Kareem Hunt got cut by the Chiefs mid-season because he had some, allegations and I believe video evidence of him, committing a domestic abuse violation, offense, crime, right? It's a crime. So anyway, and there was a whole lot of talk about it, especially because, the Chiefs were losing a major weapon, and he obviously went the rest of the season without getting picked up. But then I think, if I remember correctly, it was the Browns. So they don't really have any rules saying, about that. And they should have harsher rules on that, because that would show that they take it, seriously. But furthermore, them, making the rules that they already have in place less strict is certainly not the way to go if you want to, convince people that, you actually care about domestic violence and so on and so forth. So when I sit here and talk about, and it goes to the rules and stuff too, when I go and talk about how the NFL doesn't care, the only thing they care about is their bottom line and their profit margins. Because they're like any other business in this country, right? Like, I'm not kidding, and it's serious, and that's how it is. Like, they don't care, right? So, it's actually interesting, because then the next story I have for you, it's like I'm a news organization now. I've been watching too much TYT, the Young Turks. I watch politics, and that's the show I watch. So if any of you guys watch it, shout out to the Young Turks. Anyway, so the next one is really interesting, and this one's about the Patriots, right? And specifically about Robert Kraft. So there are reports that there are 2 charges. He's being charged with 2 counts of engaging in prostitution. So, and apparently it was in Florida. It was through a massage parlor or whatever, and he engaged in 2 that the reports currently are talking about 2 counts of, prostitution, receiving acts of sexual nature, right? And, you know, some of these reports said like a prostitution ring. And so that may be a little embellished. I haven't seen all of the details. And I'm gonna, you know, I will follow it or whatever to see how it develops. But it's still kind of preliminary. And, but anyway, so Robert Kraft is being charged with, you know, so I may not like if it was a prostitution ring, then what you might expect is like he's involved in like pimping out girls, or like he, you know, sex trafficking or whatever. And he is a Trump supporter, and he is friends with Trump, and a lot of Trump, associates are actually being accused of that sort of thing. So I'm not saying anything, but I wouldn't be surprised is what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Anyway, but so I just thought that was really interesting. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on it because it's a fascinating story to me. Anyway, so those are the two things that I wanted to talk about that are not Dolphins related. So now real quick, I'll get into now I'll get into all the Dolphin stuff, and there's a few things that I got to talk about. A couple of them will be quick, and but you never know. I mean, I go on my tangent, so I should probably just stop saying that and just let it flow, right? Well, anyway, so okay, the first thing I got for you that's actually Dolphins related is the team officially announced a couple of the coaching staff members that they hadn't officially announced yet, and that's special teams assistant Brendan Farrell and quality control coaches Mike Judge and Matt Lombardi. So there you have it. I believe now that does wrap up the entire coaching staff. So I'm pretty sure they've all been officially announced or whatever. The next thing that I want to talk about is the NFL released the compensatory picks for this upcoming draft, and the Dolphins have none. So that's a quick one. We don't have any, so I think we have, I want to say we have like 8 or so picks in this upcoming draft. I need to double check on that. I haven't looked quite yet because the draft isn't until the end of April, but it's getting close. But I have been busy, so I haven't really looked into that too much, but I will, so I know exactly what we have and in what rounds and so on and so forth. I am probably going to do, just a real quick side note, I am probably going to do, or at least I'm going to possibly attempt to do a live stream of the draft, at least maybe the first round. Anyway, so we'll get to that. So yeah, we don't have any compensatory picks in this upcoming draft, so we just have what we're allotted. Or what we had, already. Okay, and so the last thing is about a couple players. Because there's obviously been a lot of talk about free agency, so I want to talk about a couple players here right now, in particular, and a little bit about the team in general. So the first player, so there were reports about Juwan James, and so, people are saying that he's their top free agent priority. So first and foremost, here's the thing. From my overall perspective, I do not want the Dolphins to be super active in free agency. I do not want them to, spend big on anybody, and that's part of the reason why I don't think they should get rid of Tannehill. I think they should keep him because his price is reasonable. They know he can produce, so on and so forth. They just need to build the line, which I'll get to in a second, right? So, and if you do release him, you still owe him like $13 million, and then you would have to sign a quarterback for probably at least what you would save from cutting him, right? So it just doesn't make sense. They should keep him around to be the starter and groom up the young guys that they draft, right? So anyway, getting back to the main point though, about Juwan James. So Juwan James is, so first of all, like I said, I don't think we should be super active in free agency. We should definitely fill stuff if the right guys come up for the right needs and stuff like that. But primarily, I think this team has a lot of good young talent that we have drafted over the past few years. That is the core. I think we have the chance to, I mean, there's obviously a chance. So if we can get another good draft this upcoming year, then we can just, you know, plug where we need to with free agents. We don't need to go crazy. And that's how you want to build a team anyway, is through the draft. So I don't want us to see us go crazy in free agency. If anything, sign some of the guys we have already, right? So Juwan James, absolutely. Because the biggest thing for this offense is going to be that offensive line, right? Tunsil's good. He's locked down. Although they are going to have to lock him down, you know, long term in the near future. But Juwan James needs to be locked down now. I think they still got a couple years before they got to worry about that, especially because they'll have a 5th-year option on Tunsil as well. Anyway, so they need to lock him down because him and Tunsil were like the only good parts about our line last year, and he's still in the prime of his career. He's finally like really settling in and starting to play as consistent as we need him. He's always been really good. He's always had the talent, but we've always seen him struggle occasionally here and there. Now, everybody struggled last season, but Juwan James is one of the consistent, you know, so we need our bookends. We need to keep our bookends. So they need to pay that guy. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And then, as I've said before in the draft, I think that Jesse Davis had just kind of a mixed bag last year, and I think he'll be a lot better off going into this upcoming season. I think they should keep him around as the right guard. And then I think that in this draft, we need to draft at least 2 linemen, one in the 1st or 2nd round, one in the 3rd to 5th round, somewhere in there, right? And we need to get a left guard and a center. Okay. So that's for Juwan James and, you know, stuff, you know, related to him or whatever, or around him. So now the other player I wanted to talk about is Cam Wake. Right? So Cam Wake, I know he's getting older, but first of all, I've said that I want him to retire as a Dolphin. So he's probably only going to have a couple more years left in him anyway until he's ready to put it up. I mean, you never know, but I don't imagine that he's going to, you know, feel as if, you know, even if he's feeling good, I'm pretty sure, you know, he's only going to have a couple more years, maybe 2 or 3 more years left. I want to see him retire as a Dolphin. Having said that, they could rework his contract, right? So he's been usually cool with that. He doesn't have a problem with that. He wants to stay a Miami Dolphin. They've been doing that basically, and it usually comes in the form of a contract extension, right? So he gets a little bit more guaranteed money up front or what have you, and they give him like 2 more years. And so that's cool, right? His production wasn't like super great last year, but that is not really his fault, right? Because the entire offensive line struggled, especially since there were tons of injuries. William Hayes, Vincent Taylor, you know, Andre Branch spent time out, and honestly, I would say that he's one that should go this year, right? It would save a good amount of money getting rid of him, and he hasn't been all that productive, and then he's just been hurt, right? So he should be gone. But anyway, Cam Wake should definitely stay until he's ready to retire, and he does have juice left in the tank, right? He can still perform for you, especially if you're able to strengthen the rest of that defensive line. Part of the problem for him was it was too much on him, and he would just get double and triple teamed a lot, because especially later in the year when the interior of our defensive line was so depleted that, like, you know, there was no push basically. So definitely keep Cameron Wake around. Now again, for the rest of them, you know, I think William Hayes would be another guy, you know, to bring back. You could, you know, extend Wake or restructure his to save some money. Get rid of Andre Branch. That would save, I think, like 10 or 12 million. I'll have to check, and I will check on that as we get closer to free agency and as all these things, you know, start becoming, you know, whatever. The new league year, I believe, is March 13th, if I'm not mistaken, and that's when stuff's really going to start to heat up. But anyway, Vincent Taylor and Devon Godshaw are great in the middle. You know, Ziggy Hood and Sylvester Williams, they did some alright things, but you could get rid of those guys. I'm not really, I would not hate on that at all, you know, because they weren't spectacular. If you wanted to keep maybe one of them around just as a veteran presence, okay. But I definitely think that in this upcoming draft, they need to get 2 defensive linemen as well. The biggest needs for this team are absolutely 100% in the trenches on both sides. They need to get 2 offensive linemen, 1 left guard, 1 center, and one of those guys needs to be within the first 2 rounds, and then they need at least 2 defensive linemen that they get in the first 2 rounds. I think it should be offensive linemen, then defensive linemen, but we'll see how it shakes out. But they need 1 interior, 1 stud interior defensive lineman, and 1, you know, young stud edge rusher, especially if they are going to, you know, have like a hybrid 4-3-3-4 defense. So they're going to need to find somebody that can be in there at each of the interior and exterior positions, right? And then strengthen that defensive line. I really do like our linebackers going into this upcoming season. You know, you could pick one if we were going to get a, you know, that could be a late round pick. So for me, here's how I would draft this year. Just a rough, you know, idea. First round, I'd take an offensive lineman, a guard or a center. Second round, take like an interior defensive lineman or an end, right? Round 3, I would take either maybe a quarterback, right? If you got a quarterback that you like, or another offensive lineman or another defensive lineman, right? And then so like 3 to 5 is probably that. Quarterback, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. But also I would throw in a linebacker, another cornerback for sure. So honestly, for me 3 through 7, and I'll do, before the draft, I'll actually do like a little mock draft and so on and so forth. But anyway, so for now, just as a kind of an idea, so 3 through 7, I would say you got to get an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, a linebacker, a quarterback, definitely draft a quarterback in there, a cornerback, and then like maybe, I really don't think we need a wide receiver, but you could get one. I really don't think we need a running back, maybe another tight end, something like that. Right? So, and I think those are the biggest needs. But I think definitely Cam Wake should be brought back, and Juwan James needs to be signed for the next, you know, 3 or 4 years for sure. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys right now. Like I said, I do have things planned. I will be doing a mock draft at some point, probably the middle of April, you know, a little bit before the draft. The draft is always the end of April, so like I think it's like the 27th, 8th, 9th, something like that. I think that's what it was last year. Anyway, so it's towards the end of April. I'll be doing a mock draft sometime around then. I'm also expecting that I'll probably do a live stream. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll work. I might be able to get it to work. The only possible issue I might have is my computer is starting to get a little old, so we'll see if it can handle it. Hopefully it does, but I got my new camera and new mic and all that stuff. So things are getting better, and I'm working diligently to improve upon this channel for you guys, because I love doing this for you. So that brings me to my little end spiel as always. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts for them. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. I really do love interacting with you guys. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.